Morning, lads. How are we?
Do you want to continue where we left off there, Evan Ferguson? Excited? Worried for him?
A little bit of both. I think obviously moving to Rome is a brilliant move under a brilliant manager, a brilliant manager. You look at what he done with Adama Luckman at Atalanta. Really good. I know people have made similarities to Salah. When Salah went to Roma, he had a couple of loans in England and obviously done well. But look, Evan's only 20. I do think there's a world where Evan goes there, doesn't play a whole host of football, and in 12 months' time we're still thinking, what's Evan going to do now? Where's his next move? He could go there, hit the ground running and everything, be brilliant, but I don't know. I just think there's a really high class calibre of attacking players with El Sharabi. Dovback is a decent player as well. The ball is going to be knocking around there, and he will have to do a bit of everything. Evan's not coming in as like one of these underage players that, look, if he chips in every now and then it'll be great. He has to come in and he has to bring his weight to the squad, and if he doesn't do that he won't play. So it's a great move on paper, but it's all about time on the pitch, and at 20 years of age, it's not the be on and end all. It'll be a brilliant experience for him, but I just hope we don't, as I say, we hope we're not 12 months down the road and thinking Evan hasn't played an awful lot here. With the World Cup on the horizon as well, looking at it through Irish eyes.
Does his game suit Italy in that it'll be a different pace to the Premier League?
It could do, but like I say, if Evan's going to be the out and out one, Gasperini generally will play one up front with two wingers. So that means I don't see Evan playing off the left. I don't see him playing off the right. He could go to a two up front with Dove back, which would be good for somebody like Evan. Get a relationship going with another big man, takes a little bit of the weight off his shoulders. But yeah, Gasperini's the type of manager that if he comes in for you, you want to play for him. Just, I like him. I've only played under one Italian manager in Trapattoni, but he lends himself to Trapattoni. Brilliant tactician, gets his message across really well and motivates people. I think when you look at the Atalanta team, how well he did with them, they were really motivated. So yeah, why not? And it can't be as bad as it was at West Ham. Graham Potter takes him and he's thinking, this is brilliant, my old manager's taking me in, I'm bound to play. West Ham haven't got a striker and doesn't play, so hopefully it's a little bit better than what it was. But as I say, with Irish eyes, I'm being a little bit selfish, we need him playing.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this. I'm not comparing him here with Shearer, but Shearer did his cruciate and came back and said he was exactly the same player, and then he did his Achilles and lost a yard of pace. And until Ferguson's ankle is fully perfect, we don't know if he's actually going to have the same physical attributes and capabilities. So as a 20-year-old, he needs to be thinking, what am I going to be like as a 25-year-old? What am I going to be like as a 30-year-old? Will I still be playing in 15 years as a 35-year-old? Because there's every chance he will be. So I know the World Cup campaign, which is actually about 6 months long, and that's it. It's over. It's
could be over after 2 games for us.
It could be, and it's nearly as quick as the Gaelic Football Championship. But as part of his football education, if he goes there and he plays 15 league games and 3 or 4 other games, we might think that's a massive disappointment. But you might think as a 20-year-old, I've now played Premier League, I've played Serie A. He could go to the Bundesliga after that. He could go to France after that. And by the time he's 24, he's like, actually, I'm a hardened, seasoned international with 60 caps by the time he's 24, 25. And then has an excellent career.
Do you think there's a part of us that we're still living in the past bit that we think any move abroad, as in away from England, is a risk? But it's not really.
No, I think it is a risk. And look, I know people will say, he's going into a brilliant dressing room. A lot of them lads won't speak English. And look, I played in dressing rooms. All the dressing rooms I've been in have predominantly been English-speaking dressing rooms, but there's been the odd French or Spanish or whoever that doesn't speak English, and it's so difficult to get a rapport with these lads. And if Evan walks in there and he gets the odd handshake, but you're not really sitting down and going, did you see the match last night? There's nobody to bounce off. There's no charisma. I think that will shine through on the pitch. And I've said it before, I've never walked into a dressing room with no Welsh, Irish, English, Scottish lads, because you sort of get the same understanding, a little bit of banter, watch the same shows or there or thereabouts. But when you're walking into, predominantly an Italian-speaking dressing room, it can be very daunting. But for a 20-year-old to take this sort of move on, I think a lot of it, and I've listened to what Evan has said, I think a lot of it is to do with the manager, and he wants to play for him. But Roma is a massive club. Your agent rings it and says Roma are interested.
Yeah,
you're all over.
But he's well and truly out of his comfort zone now, and people can thrive in that. Because he'll have to. He's almost on edge in every aspect. So, like you said, the dressing room, that might be a difficulty for him. The culture will be slightly different. But I would see this one big universal game. Like, there'll be loads of help for him. This isn't like Liam Brady going in the 80s where you have to learn the language or you're screwed. Like, he will have help in that sense. But it's still, like, he'll never have more scrutiny than he does now because there'll be Roma obsessed media over there. Like, if you think about it, Brighton, it's relatively local in England. And to an extent, West Ham as well. Like, it's still huge over there in their cohorts, but not a national level like it will be at Roma.
Yeah, it's gonna be a different level. Obviously, Brighton is a huge club in the Premier League. West Ham also, but it's a different level when you go to Roma. I mean, if you train badly, it'll be in the papers that day that you haven't trained well. So it's another stepping stone for Evan. It's one that I think he can take to, but I see an awful lot of pitfalls there. I see an awful lot of reasons that it doesn't go well for him. But with his talent, you look at him and think, I don't know whether we get ahead of ourselves, Evan, because he's only 20 years of age, but we look at him and think, but for Ireland we need him to be playing at 20 years of age.
Because he's
so ahead of the curve.
Like, exactly. And the one thing Robbie Keane always said was, like, everyone was like, oh, moving away, it's such a risk. It's like, I moved away from home when I was 14. Evan Ferguson moved away from home when he was 14. So he's actually...
It's an Italian speaking.
I know.
I think that's massive. I really do.
Maybe he's been doing his Duolingo, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Sure
Come out and give us an old Trent interview.
He can rock up like Trent,
give us an interview.
Fluent Italian. What element of his game does he need to develop for you? Like, so, in other words, if you're watching this guy called Evan Ferguson, he just happens to be an English striker, and you're watching him call up in the Premier League all the time, you're thinking, oh, he's good, this is a good young fella, but he needs to improve on. What's the answer to that?
I think a little bit of everything. I think he's shown that, you know, he's not your out and out will score 20 goals a season but doesn't get involved in the play. He's not your typical striker that will get involved in the play and doesn't score goals. He has a little bit of everything, Evan, but he needs to just polish up on everything. I think he can be a better finisher, especially off the left. I think he can work on that. I think for his size, he's decent in the air. You know, for 20 years of age, he's a big physical being, so you can't really criticise him on that aspects of things. But yeah, I think his first touch, his hold of play is of a good standard. His finishing is of a good standard. But if he wants to go into that, you know, elite bracket, big striker, and he's at an elite club now in Roma, then he just needs to polish up on all them. But from what I've seen, he has it. He has all the tools there. It's just, you know, is there going to be some pitfalls to trip him up? Because a lot of people think, well, if you have the talent, you're bound to make it. It's not as easy as that.
Shelbourne 0, Qarabağ 3 in the Champions League second qualifying round, first leg. Oh, that chance, 7 minutes, hits the post. And they do all right in the second half, hit the bar, have a shot narrowly over by Ali Coote. There's opportunities there, but Joey O'Brien, we played the video earlier, Keith, lamenting the fact that they show too much respect to Qarabağ. What's your take on it?
I think Qarabağ wrestled Shelbourne into that. There was one or two times when the left winger Zubar got the ball and you could see Sean Gannon, Caffrey started, they ran at him thinking, well, we'll put him under pressure, and he just shifted the ball so quick, and you thought it looked effortless, like he
He's
knew
their
it
number
was
10, wasn't he?
Number 10, unbelievable. The captain, he was unbelievable in the first 45 minutes, and I'm sitting at home watching it going, come on, leave a bit on him, and you could see them running in to do it, and he's just shifting, and you think, this fella's one step ahead, and everything, the weight of pass, the touch, the speed of thought, the timing of the runs, the ball speed, everything just looked up a couple of levels. And this is a team that hasn't played an awful lot of competitive football over the last couple of games. Every single one of them were comfortable on the ball, and I think I don't want to give it all that it's a reality check for the League of Ireland, but when you think about us moving forward and playing football and modern day football, Azerbaijani football looks like streets ahead of us. Looks absolutely streets ahead of us. So I do think if Sean Gannon scores that goal, he done his best to miss it, by the way. It wasn't the best connection in the world with his left foot, just a swinger. But it hits the inside of the post. If that goes in, then maybe there's a world where it gets uncomfortable and Qarabağ don't want to be there. But once they got their goal, Shelbourne then start pushing for probably 10-15 minute period of the second half. They looked on top, and you're thinking, you need to score, you have to score now. If this period passes without a Shelbourne goal, you're really in trouble. Then there's the pass and the run. Again, the weight of pass, the timing of the run in behind, the finish that hits the post is a wonderful finish, and then the tap in, and then Shelbourne going and implode with a mistake with the last one. So the game is well and truly our sight. I would hate to be a Shelbourne player next week going to Qarabağ.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, what do you do? Because the draw against St. Pat's in the Cup means that there's going to be 3 absolutely massive games, and there's Sligo in the league before that. Do you send the B team and the kids?
I don't think you can, because you don't want to get embarrassed. 3-0 against Qarabağ. They're a very good team, been at this sort of standard for a long time, been group stage football for a while, so it's not embarrassing. But if you go there and lose 3-0 again and it's 6-0 overall, you're starting to get into the realms of that. But if you're Joey O'Brien, you probably are looking at the next European fixture thinking, you know what, we can let this one go, and with Pats in the cup also.
Well, they said they played Fairview in the FAI Cup and didn't play their full team. Do you pick that team for this away leg and go, look, this is a big opportunity for you to get some European experience. Our expectations are low. This is the shape that we're going to have. But everybody knows that if they were to win those 4 games, or to come through that tie, it's life changing for the club.
Yeah.
Do you risk injury for maybe you play players who haven't got enough game time recently? Picked up some injuries last night.
I think it's a hard sell for the players. If Joey O'Brien comes in and says, look lads, we're going to put the B team out, we're going to just get out there, it's a free swing, don't worry about it type of thing. I think that's a tough message, because it's going to be hot over there, and you're going to have to go to the well in terms of your work rate and, you know, off the ball that you're running. If Joey O'Brien starts sending that message through, I think you come down a couple of levels. So I don't know. I think it's a very difficult one. You can see the merits in Joey holding back. You could see him if he went full strength, saying it is a Champions League game after all. I know it looks like it's done and dusted, but it's a Champions League game, and a lot of these Shelbourne players haven't ever played at this level. So if you're a Mark Coyle, a Sean Boyd, a Sean Gannon, even though Sean Gannon's been around, you're still knocking on Joey's door saying, well, I want to play. Even though, as a left winger who wasn't mentally strong, going to the heat in Qarabağ 3-0 down when the team looks head and shoulders above you, it's not something that would have been high on my list.
How do you prepare for those type of games in your experience? Do you just say, well, I'll just try and improve individually?
I think you just make it as an individual thing, right, I'll try and dominate the right back, and then if you start winning that battle, you think, right, well, I'll help the left back as well, I'll try and dominate the right winger, and hopefully that'll spread through the team. But look, it's 3-0. If Shelbourne can somehow get the next goal, maybe Qarabağ get a little bit nervous, but given how they were passing the ball in Talca Park, again, the angles, the way to pass it, there's so many half chances that Shelbourne got into when they needed a nice pass, you know, the little bit of class, didn't quite have it, whereas when Qarabağ smelled that little bit of blood, they went and got it straight away.
I'm always interested in the kind of slight but significant difference in levels in football when I'm watching. Last night's a good example of Shels Qarabağ, and Shels didn't have a shot on target. So how do you, I'm asking you as a coach, like, how do you manufacture opportunities on goal against superior sides outside of set pieces?
Well, I think you make it really local. I always feel like I never really played for like an elite club or in the Premier League or in the Championship. Even when I got promoted with Burnley, we were viewed as somebody who might get relegated that season. So I always felt like I was an underdog, and Shelbourne were an underdog last night. And for me, if Qarabağ had a full press on, which they did, and they looked energetic in it for a team, as you said, haven't played too much football, they looked really good. I think you play wingers and you play Sean Boyd and you play Meepo through up front. You get the ball wide and you whip it into the box. And if they want to go and engage, then you make it a 1v1 battle in the wing. And it's as simple as that. I don't think a lot of these modern day centre-halves, when they train Monday to Friday, are saying, like, whipping a couple of corners there, I want to practice me heading. I think heading is generally starting to come out of the game. And if you start doing that, how prolific Sean Boyd is in the air, I think maybe there's something there. But look, when a team is an awful lot better, then it's an uphill battle, and every single one of those Qarabağ players looked really comfortable on the ball. It's not like you think, well, look, let Six have it and we'll go straight after him. Every single one of them looked really comfortable. But it's a learning curve for Shelbourne, and Qarabağ, as I say, a really good team. Played Olympiacos, Lyon, Spurs over the last couple of years in these competitions. So a really, really strong European team. Although they're whipping the boys at a certain level.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another fascination. When they go up, they play like Shels did last night. When you're on about a learning curve, right, the players learn after the game. When they're going home, they're thinking, geez, like talking about Zubair, like number 10, like, Jesus, I see the way he created space for himself, I got to start doing that. But how do you maintain a superior level when you're returning to domestic game where you don't need to play at that level?
Well, that's it. There's levels. There's levels to everything.
So it's hard. I'm going to say it's hard for them to improve over a sustained period of time because they're only getting pockets of experience like this against far superior teams.
Yeah, I understand that, but this will roll on to next year. I mean, you look at them playing Zurich last year, and they were outclassed, got beaten easily over the 2 legs, but it will something that will hold them in good stead. This, although they will more than likely be beaten over the 2 legs, it will hold them in good stead. And you know, next year if they get back into the European competitions, which I'm sure they will get, the lower ones, these are all learning experiences. How do they keep the standard so high?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really difficult because, as you say, the likes of a Cork in this world aren't setting the League of Ireland on fire. So you go and play against them. It's I wouldn't say low, but it's not quite as hard as a Qarabağ. So I think it's all about maintaining your own standards. And by the way, Shelbourne are the champions of Ireland. So if these can't, if you're saying, we don't quite get up for Cork, but we get up for Qarabağ, then you shouldn't be the champions. You have to represent yourself like champions. And the reason that we can be as picky as we are at Shelbourne is because over the last 3 years, they've overachieved, and now they're reaping the rewards of this sort of stuff. Qarabağ ties they are outclassed at times, but these are the rewards of what they got from what they've earned over the last couple of years. Yeah,
I suppose it's not about even them getting up against Cork City, because they wouldn't even necessarily need to. Like, that they would be better than them. But then Qarabağ are so far superior. And I guess that leads to the discussion about where Irish football is going. So then you need like improved coaching facilities, because it's disappointing watching games like that last night, where there's glimpses of Shels having self-belief and creating opportunities, but it's not enough to sustain a competitive game. And this is not just Shels last night, but we've seen that countless times.
I think so to be totally realistic about this, we need multiple teams in group stages of the Conference League over a couple of years before they're going to be able to have a better squad to be able to compete in games like this. Like, if Rovers win the league this year, which we expect to, would Rovers have a better chance against Qarabağ next season, given that they'll have hopefully qualified for the league, Conference League 2 years in a row, and now have a mix of youth and experience, where a lot of those young players, maybe Michael Noonan doesn't go next season and they get another year of him. Like, that's where a team who represents the league as champions might be able to give Qarabağ or a team with that standard of game.
Yeah, possibly.
Like, it's a really slow process to get.
It is.
The Conference League could be the greatest thing that happened to Irish football. Getting
knocked down. Yeah, look, Qarabağ are a very good team. I don't think we should overanalyze this to death and think, what's the point in all of this, and do one of those interviews. But look, Qarabağ are a good team. They outclass Shelbourne. It will take years. There's building blocks in place. It's not just Shelbourne have won the league and they're the best team in Europe now. There's building blocks that have to be put in place. I'm not so sure playing football against all these teams. Qarabağ, as I said, I've listed off a couple of teams that they played. They played against an awful lot of good footballing teams, and they haven't embarrassed themselves. I know they've lost the majority of the bigger games, but they're used to being in against teams that move the ball. And
they've roughly a 50-50 record in European football over the last 20 years. Yeah. It's not bad.
But then if you're thinking, I tell you what, we'll do what the other 50% didn't play football against them that come unstuck. It's nonsensical. And there was times where Shelbourne did go from back to front, and I know I harp on about it an awful lot, but I think if a team want the pressure, the easiest way to take that weapon away from them is to play over the press.
Yeah, it's like Meepo got in the first 30 seconds, there was a dive from one of their players. Meepo puts his hand on him and they got a free, and they did a little bit of that in the first half, and I thought they were mixing it up.
I actually, when that ball got hit into the channel and the centre half went over really easily, and the referee gives a free kick, I rolled my eyes and thought, oh my God, you've just set the tone for the whole game. Because it wasn't really a foul, very little contact. Yeah. But we've all seen the centre half gets in front, falls over, free kick, and you think, oh my God. But those balls are the ones that Meepo has to make something out of, where you're in trouble, flip it down the channel, make something happen, don't foul him, win a throw in, do something, but don't foul him. And
I think Shels are in this kind of really weird in-between phase where, obviously notwithstanding the fact that the manager walked out 2 weeks ago, where they are trying to transition from the side that won the league into a team that plays a bit more football, and they've just signed a goalkeeper who apparently they've been after for a while. They've just signed Jack Henry Francis, and this is Meepo's first season in the team. Like, they'll be a different team next year.
Yeah, I think they will. I think Joey will obviously put a more regimented stamp on his own stamp on it. I still think this is a Damien Duff team that Joey is patching up and keep putting out there, because he hasn't had a sustained period on the training ground to put his stamp on it. Having said that, I don't think the Damien Duff model was broke. I think it just needed some tweaking. So yeah, I do think Shelbourne will get stronger, but with the turnover of players in the League of Ireland, you can never stay with so much confidence that next year Shelbourne will be brilliant, because you wouldn't be surprised if 6, 7, 8 of those players move on or go somewhere, or there's such a big turnover. So it's hard to say, but yeah, it was a difficult one for Shelbourne to take last night.
Tariq Wilson went off with what looked like a bad injury, so he's a bit of a loss. Will Jack Henry Francis make a big difference to this team, because he was one of the outstanding players in the league last year?
Yeah, I think Jack Henry Francis is a really good player. I know he didn't get an awful lot of time at Arsenal. He's a young player, relatively young, but not an awful lot of time. Still quite inexperienced. I think he's a little bit off the pace in terms of his fitness, so that will have to remain to be seen. But I'm sure he'll be working really hard on the training ground, and hopefully he's somebody that can reignite his career. Although his name said Arsenal next to it for a long time, he never really was an Arsenal player because he didn't get an awful lot of time on the pitch. So it's time for him to reinvent himself.
More Irish representation in Europe tonight. Pats against Calju in the Europa Conference League, second qualifying round, first leg. And Shamrock Rovers go to St. Joseph's. That game's at 5. The Pats game's at 7:45. Same competition, so we'll probably chat about that tomorrow morning. Arsenal, you mentioned it there. Martin Zubimendi, Noni Madueke, Christian Norgard, Kepa, and it looks like Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah.
Happy?
Ish. I'm not fully convinced over Gyökeres, I have to be honest. And
Really?
Look, what he's done for Sporting Lisbon has been really good. What he's done for Sweden internationally has left me wanting to see a little bit more of him. But it's the type of signing that if Manchester United made it, if any other team in and around the Premier League and around Arsenal levels made it, it wouldn't worry me, to be honest with you. And I see it, what's he going to score? If he scores 10 goals next season, I think it'll be a decent fourth season for him in the Premier League. So I'm not convinced. The Madueke one is one that's really, really great. And I mean, 50-odd million for a player who scored 8 goals last season. I don't know in what world Mikel Arteta, and I don't know whether it's because Edu has left the Arsenal building in terms of the recruitment. 8 goals last season. I tell you what, let's go and fork out 50 million for him. I don't understand it. Why?
There must be some unbelievable underlying data somewhere that is beeping on a computer going, ooh, his XG must be very off. And next year it'll regress to the mean and he'll score 15.
He wasn't first choice, wasn't he? They wanted Eberechi Eze.
Yeah, I think they wanted Eze. I think they wanted Rodrigo as well from Real Madrid. But, the Zubimendi one, I like. He passes forward an awful lot. He'll break the game up. And with Thomas Partey leaving, that's a signing that had to be made. The Madueke one, I'd have kept that 50 million and went and got Watkins. I went and got Joe Pedro before Chelsea went in and got him. Just put that 50 to another 50. Go and get 100 million. Get somebody out. The Gyökeres 75 million, not convinced. But yeah, look, there's been decent signings there, but I really don't think those signings, considering what Liverpool have done in the transfer market, have brought Arsenal anywhere closer to them.
We'll play a game of where should they go?
Where should they go? All right,
let's play.
Go to Atletico. Go to Atletico.
I think he should leave.
I think he should stay put and fight for his place.
I'm not too sure. I'd like to see him stay in the Premier League.
If he stays, he's playing Champions League football. Where should they go?
You didn't hear your own lovely voice there in the intro.
No.
I'll play it for you later, yeah.
Too unlimited.
We'll play it again there for you. So we'll start with, I just want to start randomly with Brentford, right? So Wiss is linked with Newcastle.
Yeah.
Now, this is to do with, I suppose, Keith Andrews' powers of negotiation and persuasion. But what should Wissa do?
I think he should leave. Without, I don't want to step on Keith's toes. He won't want to hear that. But I believe Wissa has gone in and said he wants to leave as well. He wants to move on.
He's gone back from their training camp back in England.
So that doesn't look good. I think for Wissa, he's had such a good season. And look, if you're looking at it from his point of view, Mbeumo is gone, Flecken is gone, Norgard is gone, Thomas Frank is gone. There's a lot of question marks over that Brentford team next season. And looking at it straight away, I'm thinking, if they stay in the league, they'll be happy. So I think Wissa is looking and thinking, you know what, I'll get now here as well. Maybe they peaked last season and the bones of that team, the spine of that team looks to have gone. So I think Wissa is looking and thinking, you know what, I'll go as well. And the fact that he's saying he wants to leave is, for me, it will happen. And Newcastle have the finances to make it happen. You look at the wingers, the attacking players. If Newcastle keep hold of Isak, which is not a done deal, with Isak, Elanga, Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, they have a lot of goals in them, Newcastle, especially if they get Wissa.
You mentioned him, Alexander Isak. What should he do?
I'd like to see him stay. I think he's loyalty in football is a fleeting thing. Very few people have any sort of loyalty, but he's gone to Newcastle. He's done really, really well. He's gone from a very promising attacking player to an elite attacking player, and I'd like to see him stay there. I'd like to see him go and become a Newcastle legend. I always think there's going to be moves for him. When you look at, we're talking about Arsenal going and getting a centre forward, I think there's a real lack of quality centre forwards out there now, and I'm talking about your number 9s, and You know, that Isak is obviously one of them. So I'd like to see him stay at Newcastle. However, I'm sure there'll be all sorts of untold wealth being thrown at them and promised them, and even the likes of Chelsea are probably in the background with a 25-year deal somewhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did move on, but I'd like to see him stay.
Let's go back to players we have mentioned this summer already in the update from yourself. What should Jack Grealish do with his life?
Get out of there. He needs to move. He needs to play football. And you know, it's easy to rubbish Jack Grealish. All he does is go backwards. He slows it down. He loves winning free kicks. When he was at Aston Villa, he was brilliant to watch, and he was a big fish in a small pond at the time. I know Villa have got bigger and bigger, but you know, when you look at him there, the way he was just roaming in that number 10, picking up pockets, beating people. That Jack Grealish is the Jack Grealish I like to watch. The one where he's playing for Man City, constantly going backwards and sideways, and everything is safe. It's not for me. And he's been really low on confidence the last probably 18 months with everything that's gone on with Pep. So for me, move on. A 100 million player going to Manchester City, it'll probably be viewed as a flop, but he's won everything he could have won with Manchester City.
Where?
I don't know, maybe back to an Aston Villa. You know, like I say, Aston Villa have become a really big club. They could probably give him decent wages, and I'm not so sure the role would be the same under Unai Emery, just floating, worry about the attacking side, don't worry about the defensive. But I think Unai Emery, a manager like that, is somebody who could get the best out of him. Whether or not it will happen, I'm not too sure, but I think he'll have to take a wage cut. I believe he's on big wages there.
He doesn't help himself getting snapped at the Oasis concert pissed.
Wait, is that did we not like that about him though? There's a bit of an edge to him, and
I think that there'd be a concern in football about the lifestyle.
So it's because he didn't have a good season. If he'd scored 20 goals this season and then he's pictured at an Oasis concert having a drink, we all go, there's Jack, what
well, he
lad.
was hammered. He was like, it was the, I love the Man City fan, slurring the words. Like, that's the bit where someone just needs to keep, it doesn't feel like there's good people around him guiding him. And maybe we're extrapolating too much here, but that type of stuff travels football culture.
Yeah, I understand. You know, from the outside looking in, you think you're a role model, you should be doing better. But put yourself.
I don't care about the role model stuff. I'm actually like, you'd just be concerned for him that actually the celebrity and the fame has got to him. There's been several issues during COVID, driving in his slippers, the Range Rover discovered on the road. You know, that's like of a piece now, 5-6 years. You know, it's not just banter if it's still going at this stage.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Look, if you put yourself into Jack Grealish's shoes, he's done really well. He will argue that he's won everything
absolutely
that he can for Manchester City. Yeah. He hasn't been a flop. I would argue the opposite side of that he has been a flop. I don't think his football has been of a high standard lately. He's come out of the English team as well, so he will feel like he's on a low, which it'd be such a contrasting feeling, because I've looked in the mirror after games when I know I haven't played well, but I've scored a goal, and I can lie to myself and gone, you did okay there, Keith, and I know I didn't do it okay. I'm sure Jack Grealish is very, very easy to lie to himself, and I'm sure there'll be so many contrasting feelings going through his body, but yeah, seeing him in those sort of states at Oasis concert is not great, but you would hope it's just a once-off and he let his hair down and there's not too much behind it, but I'm sure he's a highly frustrated person at the moment.
Keith Treacy, thanks for playing the latest episode of Where Should I Go?
Cheers, lads.
Where should they go?